Yeah. Anyways, cool. I don't
None
know
of
whether
that's
we'll
what we
get
came here
into
to talk
podcast
about.
or not.
Podcast. Here we are.
Podcast. All right. So yeah. Wow. First ever podcast is really exciting. I don't have a name for it yet. So at this
Surely it
point,
needs to be something about villages.
yeah, I was thinking that. But then I'm like, The Village always just makes me think of that one movie.
Where
Yeah,
you
that one.
halfway through realize you're in a cult.
I'm not trying to start a cult, I swear. The Village. Or right now it's just Ebby's podcast. But yeah, so we're not I'm not trying to start a cult. Maybe something to do with like community or sitting out. I don't know. I'm just
For
gonna
now,
leave
we'll
it as
call it Ebby's podcast
Ebby's podcast is
because
great. Welcome.
we are going to put it onto podcast services like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and
Yep.
all that stuff. So for now, you can look on there for Ebby's podcast.
Simple. Find it. All the places you find your podcast. Yeah, and I think my desire for this is just well, I like to talk. And I like to talk to people. And there's always niching down on social media platforms, which I really try not to do, but it's hard to get anywhere of great depth, especially if you're talking some more like complex things in a couple of minutes. It just is. And so this is a fun space to be able to do that. Also, I've
Mm.
always had a dream of I used to want to be a documentary filmmaker. And I took like journalism classes and videography classes in college and stuff. And I wanted to travel around the world and film people, all kinds of people, like very ordinary people, homeless people, rich people, whatever, and ask them a very similar series of questions and just get like everybody's answers to them and kind of go around and compile them. And the purpose being to kind of discover some of the common threads running through humanity, the common struggles and joys that we have, and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Maybe we'll still do that. But for now,
You can see you
we'll
doing
do
that
this
very, very well.
podcast instead. And hopefully just be able to talk to a lot of cool people about bits of everything.
I think most people probably experience your social media presence as being quite eclectic. I'm excited about the possibility of this being even more eclectic.
Yes.
I think it'd be great if you could nail down a few set questions that everybody gets.
Yeah.
That'd be
I think
super
it would
fun.
too. And I haven't yet nailed those down, but I shall. And should introduce you. This is my brother, Josiah Gillespie. He is one of my 7 siblings.
One of the herd.
One of the herd. One of my faves, JK
Thanks,
everybody
Ed.
else, but I think you're everybody's favorite, Josiah. Josiah lives in England and I live in Hawaii. England is where we all grew up, and Josiah, my parents, and a couple of my brothers still live there currently. And so, yeah, he's been helping me out for a while with everything. We'll talk more
Little
about that
bits,
later.
trying to, yeah.
You really have been helping me a lot. And he's the one that's like enabled me to do this whole podcast thing. I was so overwhelmed by even how to start. So thanks, Josiah.
You're so welcome. Thanks for letting me be involved.
It's really fun to be doing this first one with you because I don't know if you realize this, Josiah, but you've always been like genuinely my biggest fan and encourager. Do you remember back in the day when I must have been like 15 years old? Mom and dad were out of the country. They just discovered that I'd been smoking weed at school. And I dropped out of school. Do you remember that?
This is the worst answer ever. I don't remember the specific instance. It rings several bells.
And I came up to see you in Coventry. You were living in Coventry.
Oh yeah, I do remember
at Nexus with a bunch of guys in the house. And mom and dad were like, we don't know what to do. We're not even in the country. And I came to stay with you. I don't know how long for. I can't remember, a week or so, maybe a week.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like really cool because I got on a train up there and stuff. And you just really you didn't like lecture me or anything. You just really like loved me and you made me feel cool. And we walked around at night with your cool music school friends. You got me, Josiah. Yeah, we have the same energy, but mine is yours is like uber calm, where mine is like squirrel. Yeah, Josiah is a musician. He is a pastor. He is a father to 2 really sweet boys. And I guess you're Ruben's like primary care provider, right?
Right, yeah.
So that's a lot of energy.
Yeah, so it's a whole other story, but my oldest son, Ruben, is a superstar. He's 9, has some severe disabilities and needs someone like pretty present who can help with medical things all the time. So uh, here at home, and then obviously he goes to school, and so I work at his school. It's like it's a little corner school. It's like 90 students in a little primary school. And so I look after two other little children with special needs, which I super enjoy, and it helps keep my weight down because it's a lot of running. And then I'm available for Ruben for his care. So yeah, I used to be an assistant pastor full time, but now I just volunteer with the church and make little bits of music to keep things afloat and work at the school. And so yeah, my life is very scatty, like Rebecca's.
But I think we would have it no other way. But at the
Yeah.
same time, probably for my kind of brain and probably for your kind of brain, it's like also the worst thing because
Mm,
all I really need is to be able to sit down and like hyper focus on something for like 8 to 10 hours,
yeah.
preferably at night. Anyways,
Yeah.
Josiah, everybody, really, really excited. That's why I'm so stoked to have you here for this first podcast, first of many.
Podcast. So we'll talk about it a little bit as we go along, and I'm gonna poke some questions at you just to help you share it in some kind of order, and we'll see how we do. So, almost nobody who's listening to this is gonna need to hear this because everyone follows you and adores you. But give us this super fast TLDR. What's the journey been? How intentional has it been from like nowhere to TikTok superstar?
Well, first, can you tell me what TLDR means, please?
Too long didn't read. Come on, that's internet speak, Ebby. You're supposed to know that
Well,
stuff.
this is the thing. I am not as cool of an interneter as I should be. I feel like during peak cool internet stage of like Reddit and Tumblr and all that, I was like, I think just really high. At the very start, it really was just like posting some silly things. Like the first thing I posted was like some trend where I'm like climbing all around Condreas's butt, do do do
Oh yeah,
do, like this spy music. And then it was just, I was home with a baby and in a new place. Like we had just moved to Hawaii and I'd been here before for like a few months at a time, but I never lived here. I didn't really know anybody. Um, I wasn't working because I'd just had a baby.
yeah.
And we shared a car, lived up on a mountain. I was just alone a lot of the time, and like just fresh off of some really crazy times in my life that you know about. And it was not an easy season. And it was a really big adjustment because I had never in my life before not worked full time or like multiple jobs. From the age of like I got my first job when I was 13, so I always just been like working and going. And then suddenly it all stopped because I had this baby.
Yeah.
And so I started just like as a little outlet and as a way of trying to kind of be creative because I've always been a creative, but I had lost a lot of that along the way and I didn't have even any like art supplies or anything, so I was just filming my days. And then I think I wish that I had like really looked at the date, but there was some point at which I said it had to have been within the first like 3 to 6 months of Kenz's life. I made a video where I was like, I just feel like I have so much untapped potential. I'm always saying these things that I want to do, blah, 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 blah. And like, I'm just tired of it and I'm ready to go for it. And I feel like all of my skills really lend themselves to being a content creator. People always tell me that I should do that. I've tried to start a YouTube, a blog, a this, that, a billion times over and always failed, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to go for it. And so I'm going to try. And so from then on, you can really see I started consistently posting and whatever. And I don't think I really thought necessarily that it would get to where it is today. But I did have that intention, mostly because I just wanted to cultivate the things in myself that I had kind of let go fallow for a while. And it was an easy way. Like all you need is your phone. It was an easy way for me to start doing that. And then quite early on, I used it very much as a tool for like accountability with myself and with whoever was, on the other side because I was really trying to find myself again after just having a baby and having like just everything in my life change. And so I did this thing that I called it like 90 days to change my life or something. And I was like, you can make or break a habit in 90 days. And I have all these changes that I want to make. And I always try and do them all at once. And it's not sustainable. So I'm going to try and just do one positive action every day for 90 days. And I did it. And most days I made a TikTok about it. Not every day, but a lot of days. And during that time, because that was part of the challenge too. I was like, I'm going to do a positive action and film it, whatever. And within that 90 days, at some point, I got my first like 10,000 followers. And then I think that's when I made those cycle syncing cheat sheets for the first
Yeah.
time. And I put those out there and they just like blew up. I made like a nice little stack of money that we used to like get out of some debt and buy a like an old beater car for Condreas so that we could each have a car. And then I think by the end of that 90 days, I had my first 50,000 followers.
It's so wild.
It's crazy to look back on, and the way that my content has grown and changed. And in some ways I was like, oh wow, I really liked some of the things that I was doing then. It was less polished and, just a little bit less concerned about, well, you don't have a million people watching and analyzing what you say. So it's a bit different. Because at the start it was just, renegade, renegade, which is all fun too. I actually love that. I love the way that it brought tons of people together during, like, I think COVID was a really big part of it, and we just needed a way to kind of like connect and commune like through that. What I'm excited for is where to go from here, because I have just always wanted to have a positive impact on the world. And I think there's a ton of ways to do that. You can do that by having a positive impact on your neighbors, on your children, on your family, whatever. But I think that this does really give me a lot of cool opportunities and diverse ways to like have a positive impact, whether it's through content I make
Yeah.
for the phone, or whether it's through writing a book, or through like whatever, a podcast, lifting up other people and other voices, and making it about something that's more than just like me showing my face on the internet.
Nothing wrong with you showing your face on the internet, but I know what you mean. This is your neighborhood now.
Mm-hmm.
For most people, that's not the case, but this is what's on your front doorstep. And so there is a kind of responsibility
Yeah.
to make it count. And I really do think you are making it count, but what an opportunity to lean into. So, what are a few goals for you of how you would like the next season to look? Next 1 year or next 10 years? I think we can all safely say you've arrived. Like it pays your bills. That's, to me, that's arrived. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
that's
true.
that's amazing. So what from here, if no longer the battle is just like, oh, how do we make this work? Now it's, what do I really want to make this look like? What are some of those definitive things for you?
I think first and foremost for me, it's like making it sustainable for my home life,
Sure.
because my ultimate goal when I started this was that I didn't want to have to go to work and hire someone to look after my kids, you know? And while I'm home all day every day, and Kendreas, my husband, is now home all day every day, he's like stay-at-home dad. Woo. Um, I still don't like, I'm not very good at time management. And so I still struggle to like do the things with my kids that I want to do, particularly with Kenza, since having the baby. A lot of my time goes towards nursing baby, putting baby down for a nap, whatever. And Kenza is of the age where he's ready to start homeschool and stuff. And I want to be that mom. I want to be the forced school, homeschool, going out for the day and doing cool adventures, like, and I just haven't been able to do that a lot. When I started making content and had a vision for it, I wanted to document the process of me learning how to do life. And I kind of said that kind of thing often. Like, I had all these big dreams of wanting to be an amazing mom and homeschool and treat myself and my body well and be healthier and homestead and have chickens and do all this stuff. But I, at that time, was not functioning very well,
Okay.
because I just hadn't taught myself the disciplines of how to function for many years, and I had just been struggling with other things that made that hard for me. So it
Fair
was
to
like,
say that you missed a lot of that in your wild years, wild teen years. Well, you had lots of epic experiences. You missed some of the foundational.
yeah,
Well,
exactly. I had tons of epic experiences and stories and all kinds of stuff, a lot of fun, but I missed a lot of foundational things. And so I didn't want to just like create content when I had figured things out and when it was perfect, but I wanted to show the process of getting there. And I think I have done that big picture, but along the way, sometimes it trips up, and I'm like, oh, I filmed a video and then it didn't turn out and then I didn't post it, or whatever, But I'd really like to get back to that and continue sharing that kind of journey and story for Condreas and I, because you know, we have goals of our lifestyle of, homesteading and gardening and creating community in real life in our home and having like a little farm and all of that. And I have found it hard to find time over the last 6 months or so to like get out and garden, or
Mhm.
to sit down and sew or something. I've just not really had the time. And I'm like, well, it's kind of pointless if I want to make content about all of these things and I don't even have time to do it because I'm making content.
Yeah.
So, streamlining for that purpose so that I can continue to grow and then continue to share that process with others so that they can also grow in those
Mhm.
ways. And part of that includes leaning more towards longer form content, so, like longer form YouTube videos, things like podcasts that have a lot more of the meat of really valuable stuff in them, just so I can not have to put as much energy into my day to day short form. Because as it is, I'll film sometimes, an hour or more on a given
Mhm.
day. There's some days I don't film, and then there's some days I film all afternoon because I'm inspired and I'm cooking and I'm doing something. But like Josiah, because you've been helping me out, so much gets cut out of these videos to
Mhm.
make it short form to go onto TikTok and Instagram and stuff. And realistically, I could film twice a week like that and have it be a long form video, cut some out for short form, and then continue to do the cute little like trends and answering questions and like all of those fun things I used to do a lot more of, like
Yeah.
the fit checks and just the little moments rather than having to focus on every day or most days having like a full blown multiple minute video that's like a recipe or
Yeah.
really informational. Anyways,
So a key part of the sustainability is kind of adjusting the quality to quantity balance. We're all talking about how much we love TikTok at the moment, and there's a lot to love about it. It does drive the quantity engine really hard.
yeah, it is quite a like daily taskmaster sometimes. And as much as everybody would like to say that they don't care about or pay attention to views and performance, you do. And you have to as well when it's part of your livelihood and
Mhm.
when a brand is coming to you for a collaboration and they're asking you about your performance over the last 60 days or whatever, and it's
Mhm.
all affected by the quality of content that you're putting out and the quantity of it. And then there's the aspect of getting paid for your content as well. And obviously on TikTok, you only get paid for videos over a minute long. And that's not hard for me. It's hard for me to make a video that's under a minute long, to be honest with you. I think I will enjoy long form once I get used to it. But it does slowly, when you're kind of that's your livelihood, it does slowly deter you from the short little quick cutesy videos or the videos that might just like have some footage and some bullet points about something because you're not going to get paid for those videos. And even though it's really not all about money, it's like a subconscious thing. If you only have X amount of time in a day, I'm going to post a 2-minute long recipe video rather than a 10-second long trending
Yeah.
audio, which is lame. And so I would also like to move away from feeling beholden to that daily machine for income because I feel like that reduces the like quality of the content anyway. It's not as fun,
Mhm.
it's not as creative if you're thinking too hard about I have to make this go viral so that I make money. Like the goal isn't to go viral. The goal is to be authentic and to express yourself and to build and cultivate community. So I would like to, yeah, if I can kind of diversify a bit more and put more energy into other platforms and things like writing a book.
Mhm.
That is a very official and adult way to like earn an income.
And profoundly long form way.
Profoundly long form and takes a lot of time and effort. The more that I kind of put energy into that, the more that I should be freed up to like make relaxed everyday content that doesn't suck tons of my time. So I can, make a garden with my toddler and homeschool him and whatever. And then also make content about those things as I have space and time for it.
So just to
So yeah,
clarify, you're not at all talking about getting off TikTok, but you are talking about not being
no,
dependent on TikTok and that way of functioning as a creator,
yeah.
not being dependent on it to where it runs how your life functions.
Exactly. So you'll be seeing things like podcasts, like longer form YouTube videos, and then smaller parts of those broken up into digestible short form content. Um, Another thing I really want to do is cultivate some kind of like online community space whether that is geared towards Substack or Patreon. I haven't fully figured out the balance there yet, and maybe we'll talk about that in a second. I don't know, but like a way to connect with people a little bit more intimately and a little bit more one-on-one, because I get a lot of DMs and a lot of requests for things like that, and I physically can't like respond to everybody in that fashion. So creating a framework through which to do that. And then another big goal of this year is stretching my artistic muscles and physical creative projects. So I already have a couple of great collabs lined up that are design based with brands that I love, and I want to find more of those throughout this year, and then lean more into like what things I can create to share, because at heart I'm very much an artist, like a painter, a drawer, a crafter, like I had a
And then
tie-dye business for years that I went to
that was
markets and
cool.
so I have like all these tapestries and cute little tops and stuff. I'd love to do that. Like do a batch of tie dye, and like
We need to find something good to do with that for sure. You've been an artist since you were a little kid,
mm,
like a visual artist in so many different ways. And so I'll be really excited to see some of that come back online. I know you got plans to be releasing some physical art pieces that people can buy prints of and stuff,
yep,
which is part of what I want to help make available, with all the online sales process and all of that stuff. You also mentioned, obviously, a big chunk of it is brand collaborations and your that sense
mm,
of responsibility to be maintaining the types of numbers that make you attractive to brands because that's been a major part of your income. I know you've been really, really careful to work with brands that you actually like, that you support, that you feel like you can honestly stand behind the products, but it's still that's a part of the treadmill. You've got to have the next one lined up and the next one lined up.
yeah,
And I know that you've really angsted at times about not wanting to overwhelm your content with sales.
yeah.
I'm sure that you'll still collaborate with brands where it excites you and stuff. Is that another important part of it? Getting off of that treadmill of having to be lining up the next thing to sell, where you're selling someone else's stuff
Yeah,
and having to look good for brands versus just doing what you're interested in.
100%. It really, really is. I actually love working with brands, honestly. It's really exciting to me when I get an email or a DM from a brand that I love and they want to work with me. I think it's so cool still. And I like fangirl and I get really excited. But it can be a lot, and there's like, yeah, like you said, I work really, really hard to genuinely only work with brands that I use or would use or have used or like and believe in. There are so many messages, DMs, whatever, that just go completely ignored, or I start to pursue and then I discover like, oh, we're actually not aligned. I don't like the ingredients in
Mhm.
your products. I've had some big name brands come into my DMs, my emails, and I was like, I just can't promote you because I actually stopped using products like this a while ago, because you actually use things in your products that I know are hormone disruptors or whatever. Like it would be wrong for me to promote a vino, or like I've had some other big name brands like that come
Mhm.
in.
Yeah.
Point being, yes, I love working with brands, but I would like to not have to like meet a quota of like, well, we have to pay our bills through this. And I really feel strongly about not overselling to my community. So I would really like to reduce that as well and only work with, the perfect brand collabs at the perfect time where it is just so up my alley and everything aligns beautifully. Um, and keep it minimal. And I think another great way of being able to move away from that is doing more of my own things.
Mhm.
And like I said to you the other day, like so many creators make merch and stuff, and I just feel like I can't make merch. The only thing that really makes sense for me is creating art. And at this point, it's kind of like I could draw a picture and put it on a mug, but everyone would be like, cool picture on a mug. Like, it doesn't really connect to me
Mhm.
until I begin to make it part of what does connect to me, which is what I
Yeah.
would like to do. I would like to really present myself more as an artist.
That's exciting to me.
And I just think in the capitalist world that we live in, you can't escape the need for things and to buy things. But I would really like to be a bit of a break from the voice of constant need. And that doesn't mean never promoting anything, because we need stuff. Yeah, I would just like it to be really mindful. And I think a great way to counteract capitalism is through supporting art and community, because art doesn't thrive in a capitalist society. Community doesn't really thrive in a capitalist society because capitalism makes bank off of people being alone and unsupported and needing more things
And
to fill those roles in their life. Like you need more stuff and shortcuts and more fast food, rather than more community and support and time. So, yeah.
social media is one of the things that we're seeing massively feed into the loneliness epidemic, which I think no one can deny. I mean, my mindset around it is, if you want to put it in spiritual terms, is that makes social media not something to just run away from, but it makes it a mission field. It means if you have the tools and the capacity in these online platforms to be contributing to things that connect people genuinely, take people out of the competition, oh, I gotta beat the person next to me mindset into the, oh, this is part of what it means to, part of how I can express and share community, that actually there's a potential to be part of the cure. And usually to cure anything, you have to be part of it. You have to be involved. You have to be present in it. So I'm excited to hear you talking about that, because I think lots of people in our generation are feeling the tension of like, I kind of just want to throw my phone away, and I kind of just want
Mhm.
to like delete everything and never be part of it ever again. But we're also aware like this is part of my world. It is part of my neighborhood. It is my village in one sense. And so those who have the capacity to build something with it, and some people genuinely don't have the capacity, which is fine. I have not had the capacity. But watching you have the capacity and watching you in this season be able to really take hold of that and own it, and I think engage honestly with some of the things about it that are really broken, but still be able to say, oh, this is part of how I'm serving my community,
Yeah.
building something that doesn't automatically exist. And it's a little bit against the algorithms in one sense. It's kind of exciting to see.
If we're going to engage in social media at all, then we have to learn how to do it authentically and wisely. And that the fact of the matter is that we don't live in villages, that we live in suburbs. We
Mhm.
don't live in the same society that we used to, and as much as we would like to recreate it, not everybody can. And so that's another one of the reasons why I would like to explore more of these community based
Yeah. So let's talk about
platforms.
that for a little. Let's unpack some of that desire to take what's begun to flourish and begun to work and refine it, make it sustainable, make it more personable, make it not disconnected from, but make it less driven by the algorithms, by brand relationships and that stuff. One of the things that I know you've been thinking about and I've been helping you think through and stuff. Um, by the way, like I've just popped up here out of nowhere and everyone's probably like, where's this guy come from? What has he been doing? I haven't been doing that much, but I've been helping Rebecca for a little while with little bits of editing. I have
Mhm.
several other jobs and stuff, so it's not like I can do loads, but I've been helping a little bit with editing and little bits of thinking through technical stuff so that Rebecca can get on with the things that she's good at and enjoys. And hopefully, all being well, I'll be able to be more and more on board with some of that stuff.
Well, let's I guess to kind of introduce you, but not fully. Yeah, Josiah came on board to start helping me. I think it was around September, maybe. It was a couple months after I'd had Zimri, and I was
Mhm.
feeling quite overwhelmed and had all of these visions and desires, and just was like, I just don't know how I can do it, because even just filming and editing a video every day is like a lot right now. And I was struggling to keep up with all the other things of like emails back and forth with brands and contracts and collabs and Substack and life stuff, taxes. And so right when I was starting to think I really feel like I need a manager or something, Josiah was like, you were at a point, I think, where you were becoming more of a full-time carer for Ruben. Yeah, you needed something to kind of supplement that, and also just to like give yourself more of an outlet, because you've always been into tech stuff and recording and music, and like you said, you did TikTok before I even did. And
Yes, I
so
did.
you're into this
Yeah.
kind of stuff. You're into it,
Mhm.
and as we all know, you are my biggest fan. So
Always.
Josiah hit me up one day and was like, I don't know if you're even interested in this, but is there any way that I can like give you any support and help? And I was like, please, I need help. And so, yeah, we did some good back and forth for a little bit about like editing videos. You know, I'd send him stuff and he'd send it back, and I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
let's work on this, and then send it back. Yeah, you got really, really good, honestly, really fast. And so Josiah's been helping supplement my video editing for a while. And during some phases where I've been really overwhelmed, that's been like the majority of my videos, you know, and I've just like recorded cooking videos and stuff and sent them to you. You've edited them, and then I voice overed them. And when I feel like I have a bit more space, I do more of my slapdash chit chatty videos, and I edit those myself. Zimri's trying to grab my mic while he's nursing. Dude, chill. Anyways, and then yeah, been working on a lot of behind the scenes stuff, like how to set up a podcast, like
Yeah.
how to start creating, you know, monthly prints of my art, like anything that I have an idea for. You already are 10 steps ahead of me and already have the idea, and you've already researched it.
I think I'm coming on board at a time that is helpful where a lot of people in your situation, I think, are going for like big brand management agency things.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm able to offer some of the help of that to lift some of the load without it like turning you more corporate. I'm really invested in the things that you're invested in. I care about you staying who you want to be. And so I think we're going to be able to strike a good balance there. And the people listening in and watching, you know, Ebby's community, you pay attention and see if you think things go in good directions in the coming months. I know we've been talking for a long time, especially for anyone who's listening on the Patreon. At this point, they're like dozing off. But why don't we overview for people what some of those things are that I'm going to hopefully help you set up and establish, and a little bit
Yeah.
of what that's going to look like and where people can be involved and what is changing, what isn't changing. Let's start with that. You're not going to disappear from it. You're not talking about signing off from TikTok. You're not dropping off the map in that sense at all. But some of the things that we are looking at bringing in is, so one, podcast you're aiming for maybe twice a month, that kind of
Yeah.
range,
I
something
think
like
that's
that.
doable to begin with. Yeah. Aiming for twice a month for podcast.
And so the
Mm.
plan with that is probably kind of half hour to 45-minute episodes that go out on podcasting platforms, and the video of it is up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll share some kind of shorter clips from that to TikTok and Instagram as well. And then the longer, rambling, chaotic mayhem of it available on Patreon. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. As you can tell, there's always things to be cut out, and we can have great conversations on all kinds of things for hours. So, yeah, shorter, more digestible, nicely chopped up versions will be available everywhere, all the podcast places. And then, yeah, if you're just really into all of the juicy, gory details, that will be on Patreon. Yeah, the idea on Patreon is to, well, I don't, do you want to introduce it, or do you want me to?
Sure. And I should say, like, this has been one of those things where I've kind of pushed you quite a bit. And so we need to trial it out and see if it actually serves your community well and see if it suits. But my thought has been, again, that it's an opportunity for some of your connection to people to be more intentional, some of your income to come from what people are choosing. You can relate to people directly and ask them what they want and hopefully give what they want. And that can create part of your income in a more intentional way. And so really the goal is for none of what you're currently doing to disappear. So like no one will lose out on just the good free Ebby mayhem that has always existed on Instagram and TikTok, and is now on YouTube and is really going well on Facebook. I can't believe it, Rebecca. Just everywhere your stuff gets posted, people flip out. It's so funny to watch. People are just, you're just delightful. So none of that will go away. No one's going to have to
Oh,
pay
good.
you for your ordinary stuff that we all love you for. But if people decide they want to support you, and it really isn't going to be like a business transaction in that sense, it is if people want to support you, Patreon is a
Yeah.
way that they can. And so we're going
Yeah.
to create some tiers of things. What's happening on Substack with the recipes will also be available on Patreon. We might find that Patreon is a better place for it. So maybe Substack will get phased out, but we'll see. But so there'll
Yeah.
certainly be the recipes and stuff on Patreon, but we're figuring out what tiers will be helpful for what and whatever. And we'll see about that. We don't want to make it all crazy expensive because really it's, again, it's just an opportunity for people to support if they want to. But longer podcast episodes, available free downloads of all the digital stuff that you're creating. And there's more of that in the pipeline. Physical
Mhm.
prints that can be sent to people of your artwork. You know, maybe a tier where there's a very tight community with regular direct calls with you, where there's a little more opportunity for
Yeah.
real connection. People want to quiz you specifically on stuff. And so, yeah, we're figuring out some of what that will look like. But the goal
Yeah.
is for it to create an option for intentional support and engagement between you and your community that isn't through the middleman of someone else's brand, someone else's algorithm, which, yeah, no one has to do. All your stuff will still be available. But if somebody says, oh, I want that connection,
Yeah.
it's available.
Exactly. It's kind of the culmination of the few things of like, for one, I need help, I need support and some kind of management, but also I don't want to just sign on with a big management brand that will have a lot of big corporate deals that they need me to do, that will basically need certain things from me to keep their machine going as well. Not that I wouldn't ever take on like a small personal manager, but keep things as authentic as possible and as not money oriented as possible. And then in the similar vein with social media, obviously we got TikTok back, but we don't know what it's going to be looking like long term. We already feel like the algorithm is a little bit changed. So just a way to again keep things free flowing, uncensored, keep things not being dependent upon big corporations for me to be able to continue to create content and not having to kind of feed that monster in order to do what I do. An increasing change in social media is people going to creators that they really love and supporting them through something like a Substack, and it being, yeah, more of a I am supporting you and subscribing to you, but then also in return, me saying, I really want to offer stuff of actual value that goes past just like a few seconds on your screen, whether that be extended content, that is just a little bit more free flowing, whether that be physical tangible products that like maybe will be on an Etsy or a Shopify somewhere for purchase, but like you can be a member and you will receive those. And then yeah, my ultimate really is to have some kind of online community where I can actually have like live personal calls, a group Zoom where
Mhm.
people can really interact, where we can back and forth with one another and create some of that community, with largely the goal of also encouraging people to do that in their own lives and in their own homes and areas, and kind of being able to be a bit of a catalyst for that. And so obviously with something like that, like I can't just open it up to everybody. There would be way too many people. You wouldn't be able to all get on a Zoom. Nobody would get a word in edgewise. It wouldn't work. So it has to be something that is like membership based. I used to really hate the idea of even suggesting things like that where people pay for something to do with my time. But I think it's just a showing value, and if you choose to pay for something, then you value it and you show up for it, and then you're going to engage in it because you're valuing it.
And for all
Anyways,
the people who can't pay for it, nothing's going away. Right.
right. I'm not going to put everything behind a paywall and be like, oh, you want my recipe? Ha! Any of
Yeah.
it, you got to go over here. And I do post recipes on Substack because it is hard. It's hard to like always put out full recipes of everything everywhere. I even find it hard to put recipes on Substack. For a long time, I was doing like quite a few a month. The last couple months, I didn't do very many. And I'm sorry about that. My Substack is $5 a month. I usually put at least four things on there: recipes, articles about herbs and research and stuff like that. I struggled the last couple months. I have a lot of things coming up for this month to make up for it.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just a way of showing a bit of support, and honestly it's just what makes sense for my time. Like time wise, I would love to put out so much free content, free downloadables, free this, that, and the other. But when you get to a certain point and your life is very full, you have a different value over your own time. So when I
Mhm.
know that like creating this download, or like the pregnancy digital downloads, right? Or creating like a blog post, it takes time away from like me being with my kids when I already don't have as much time with them as I would like. And so to me that's valuable. So I'm gonna say $7 for the pregnancy digital downloads because I spent probably 100 hours
Yeah.
on that that I could have
Yeah.
spent with my kids, maybe 100 hours is a lot, but I did spend a long time on it. It was a lot. Anyways, I'm rambling. You'll probably have to cut half of this out, but I am really open to feedback. I am trying to figure out the best place and way to do this, whether it's Substack or Patreon. I don't want to be confusing and spread myself thin across the board. I know Substack has added some extra features and I have a good community over there right now. So I don't want to just like switch things up all of a sudden. So you won't see that for a while. There'll probably be like kind of both things going on both platforms so that I can see what works best behind the scenes, which interface is better, what has the better features, like what's
Mhm.
better for live calls, what's better for, for the community ultimately. And then we'll kind of figure out where to go from there. Because I do want it to be something that's long term gonna be valuable and be able to grow with people and with community. So
Good.
bear with, please, while I figure that out, while Josiah and I figure that out. I am really, really excited to have different offerings and to create more community and get to know people on a deeper level that have been like following me for a long time.
That is exciting. I mean, we've been talking for a long time. I will have to trim this down some, and this is some where I'll be doing some editing for Ebby. And so, community listening in, one of the questions is, how rambly would you like these to be? We will go for a more sane length that goes out, on most platforms. But in terms of something that's available for the Patreon community that's listening in, how much do you want available? I mean, there's like an hour and a half here already. Do you want all of that? Do you want, like, yeah, give us some feedback on that.
Yeah.
Your feedback on everything that has been discussed would be
Yeah.
great.
What kind of things would you like to hear talked about? What kind of guests would you like to have? Like, is there anybody that you follow that you would love to see a crossover? Just any ideas and things. Like, I'm really down for all of it.
What would you like to see as rewards? What would be meaningful rewards
Yeah.
for you guys
Yeah.
for support? What would be valuable?
And again,
Um,
Patreon thing, we're talking like tiers of like 5, 15, 20 something dollars, not
yeah.
like anything crazy. So yeah, what would you like to see from me? You want tie dye?
If you're gonna make people tie dye, I'm gonna demand that you have a tier that costs more than $25. Just so you know, guys listening in, if something looks like it costs a lot, it's because I pushed Abby to do it. Not that wasn't Abby's choice. Okay, Abby is always like, "Oh no, I shouldn't charge anybody." So if you ever think, "Oh, Abby's really jacking her prices up," it's me pushing my little sister to value her time. Okay,
Take
you
it
can
up with
blame me
him.
for that.
Take it up
You
with
can
him.
100%. There is a Josiah at Ebby Moyer email address. You can email me and tell me how mad you are. But anyways,
We'll
do you
start a
want to?
complaint line to
I
Josiah
will happily
at
be the complaints.
ebbingwarrior.com.
Why don't we wrap up by telling people who's going to be on the next podcast?
Yes. Next podcast.
I mean, really,
Um,
this person is responsible for half of your success, isn't she?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
this was the
Probably
blow
more
up point.
more. I mean, 100% if you think about the fact that she gave me life. Yes,
Well,
we're
then,
going to have my mom on as next podcast guest. Which is not just a cutesy thing because she's my mom, but a lot of people actually started following me from my mom. I think, yeah, when I got my first jump from like 20,000 followers to maybe like 60 or 70,000, something like that. It was because I posted a little series of videos of me chatting with my mom about frugal, healthy eating, like healthy eating on a budget, about having a bunch of kids. I have um, 7 siblings, 6 of whom are biological and birthed by my mother. And she's just like a Wonder Woman. And so
she's
she
the
is the
original
lady.
Earth Mother. She was
She
doing
really is.
kombucha and kefir and all that stuff when everyone was like weirded out by it. She was doing
Super
all
weirded
that.
out by it. We were weirded out by it. But she does it in a way that she's not like a hippy dippy. She's really not. She's very matter of fact, very black and white kind of person. Like so different than me in so many ways, but also so very similar. And she is just a
It's
treasure
true.
trove of great knowledge and wisdom. And she deserves a spotlight. And I think people have been asking for more from her for a really long time. So it just feels fitting that she should be my first official guest. And so yeah, I think we'll be recording with her next week. So that should be the second podcast this month, or maybe that'll be coming in February. I don't know.
We'll see how fast we can get this turned around.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
But yeah, so very exciting. If you have any questions that you would like me to ask my mother,
Post them in the
where
replies to this.
on Patreon?
Comment on Patreon below this
Oh,
podcast,
and
below this
YouTube.
video. Yeah, yeah, sure.
yeah, if you have any questions for my mom that you would just love me to ask, comment in response anywhere you see this posted, and we will just barrage her for an hour with questions.
That's going to be so exciting.
Hmm.
It'll be great.
Yeah, thank you, Josiah, for helping make this happen. Thank you to everybody who has stuck through and listened to this really long ramble. I think is just, getting everything out there, getting all the thoughts out and all the vision out so that we can sort
Refine it
through
and
it,
move
move
forward.
forward. Yeah, exactly.
The next couple, we've had a few tech issues this time. We're still learning some of this. We're going to get Ebby's sound a little bit better next time, clean a few things up. And
Clarity.
so it's great, but that's part of what I'm going to be here for is to help so Rebecca can focus on being her weird hippie trippy self. Is I'm going to try to help some of the other things
I'm just
function
the
really
talent.
nicely. So yeah, we're gonna keep tweaking as we go. This is just the
Yep.
first little toe in the water, but
Yep. I love you, Josiah. It's been great talking to you.
love you every day. Very, very proud of you and looking forward to this whole journey. I'm gonna stop recording right